I am going to kind of shorten things today so we got enough time for Dr. Hertko. I called Tim last week. He told me, I said, I don't have any lawyer jokes. And he said, well, don't waste them if you get them. He said, make sure I'm there. So I called today, but he wasn't available to answer, so I didn't know if he was going to show up or not. But this is maybe some of you have heard these. These are reported by the Massachusetts Bar Association's Lawyer's Journal. The following are questions that were actually asked of witnesses by attorneys during trials, and in certain cases, the responses given by insightful witnesses. Now, doctor, isn't it true that when a person dies in his sleep, he doesn't know about it until the next morning? The youngest son, the 20-year-old, how old is he? Were you present when your picture was taken? Do you recall the time you examined the body? Answer, the autopsy started at around 8:30 p.m. And was Mr. Dennington dead at the time? No, he was sitting on the table wondering why I was doing an autopsy. Now, how far apart were the vehicles at the time of the collision? You were there until the time you left, is that true? How many times have you committed suicide? So the date of conception of the baby was August 8th. Answer, yes. Question, and what were you doing at the time? Question, she had 3 children, right? Answer, yes. How many were boys? Answer, none. Were there any girls? You say the stairs went down to the basement? Yes. And those stairs, did they also go up? Now I'm just going to finish up with one that I thought was the best. Question, doctor, before you performed the autopsy, did you check for a pulse? No. Did you check for blood pressure? No. Did you check for breathing? No. How can you be so sure, doctor? Oh, so it's possible that the patient was alive when you began the autopsy? No. How can you be so sure, doctor? Because his brain was sitting on my desk in a jar. It goes further. But could the patient have still been alive nevertheless? Answer, it's possible he could have been alive and practicing law somewhere.
Is this where we throw the disclaimer in for Bill? No lawsuits, please. But we'll go ahead and get the meeting started. So please stand for Singing of America, Pledge of Allegiance, and prayer with Raymond Date.
Gives us promise of the new season. As an ex-farmer, it was always a treat when it began to warm. We reach out to those less fortunate from our club. Camp Hertko has been one of our projects for many years. We ask a blessing upon those people as they reach to those in need and in dire health problems that they need to face each day. Now, as we have fellowship here together and partake of this food, may we be strengthened in Christ's service. Amen.
Amen. Hey, number one. Go. Hear those lions roar. Go. Hear those lions roar. You can hear them roaring every week as they beat and growl for more. Rock, rock, rock. Don't you hear those lions roar? Their snarling, rumbling roar. So roar, lions. Fight 'em, fight 'em, fight 'em. Don't you hear those lions? Hear those lions. Hear those lions roar.
Wonderful. Bring cheers.
Are we done? Someone can move around everybody. Well, we had a little fun last time. Well, this is going to be easy on you, dude. Number 42, one of your favorites.
We're not done.
And we're going to sing both verses. Both verses.
To the program, well, do we have any guests today? I'm looking around here. I don't see any offhand. Bill, you're not a guest.
I have Dr. Hertko, who is our speaker, but I also have Cindy Dunn and her grandson Zachary.
Thanks for coming. Lion tamer, I don't see Rich today. Okay. Bill, do you want to come up and introduce the program for today, and then we can...
Well, today we have the honor of having with us Dr. Edward Hertko, the founder of Hertko Hollow. We've all contributed to Hertko Hollow over the years. We know the name, but we've never known an awful lot about the camp, and that's what he's going to tell us today. Dr. Hertko.
I usually don't need a microphone. I've been in Iowa since 1960, and I was born and raised and trained in Illinois. So I'm a Fighting Illini, but I adopted Iowa when I came here in 1960, and they had a horrible football team, and I love football, so I've been a follower of the Hawkeyes ever since. So anyway, since I've been here in Iowa, I became deeply interested in diabetes, and people ask me, well, why did you get involved in diabetes? My mother was a diabetic. She got it when she was older, in her 40s, died of complications of diabetes. I have a brother who is a year older than I am, and he's diabetic for about the past 20 years. And he got it when he was in his 40s or 50s, I can't remember exactly. So I got involved with diabetes, and when I came to Iowa and went into practice, I'm an internist. So I take care of older people. I joined the internal medical clinic in Des Moines with 4 other doctors, and when I walked into the door, they asked me and they said, Ed, we want you to take care of diabetics. And I thought, well, by God, God follows me. Because when I was in college at University of Illinois and I applied for medical school in 1950, I had to be interviewed. And one of the questions they usually ask is, why do you want to be a doctor, etc. And at that time, my mother was a diabetic, so I said, well, I have an interest in diabetes because my mother was a diabetic. And I did get into medical school, so I was in medical school 50 to 54, and then I was an intern in Cook County Hospital in Chicago, then I was in the Navy for a couple of years, and then I took a residency, and then I came here in 60. And when I walked into the door of the internal medical clinic, they said, we want you to take care of the diabetics. And I said, by God, God heard what I said in 1949, and he said, okay, now do it. So I did start getting involved with diabetes in 1960. And at that point in time, there was nothing in the state of Iowa for diabetes at all. There was no diabetic association, there was no diabetic camp, there was nothing. I don't know, I think diabetes existed in the state, but nobody did anything. And lo and behold, at that time, Bob Harden, who was at the University of Iowa, asked me to be the coordinator for the American Diabetes Association for the state of Iowa. I said, sure, I'll do it. What do I coordinate? He says, nothing. Well, there wasn't anything to coordinate at that time. So we started the first diabetic association in Des Moines, which was called the Iowa Diabetes Association. And we had, seminars or meetings for people with diabetes. And around 1968, we became incorporated in the state of Iowa. Also in 1968, I looked around and I said, well, what do you do with the kids? They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, a lot of the other states have camp for kids. He said, well, why don't you start one? I said, okay, fine, we'll start one. So in 1968, we started the first camp. And at that time, it was called Elm Camp. And when the kids showed up, we had 37 kids the first year. And at that time, they named the camp. They had a ballot where they marked and all that, and that's how they got the name. And it's Camp Hertko Hollow ever since. The first year I had 37 kids in camp. The camp has continued to get bigger and bigger. In 2001, we had 255 diabetic kids all in camp the same week. We had to turn kids away because we had no place to put anybody. So we decided at that time to split the camp into 2 weeks, taking all the older kids 1 week, the younger kids the second week. And so in 2001, as I said, we had 255 kids. The next year we had 311. That was in 2002. In 2003, which is just last year, we had 340 kids. And they come from all over Iowa. I had a map on here, you could see it, kids coming from every place in the state of Iowa. There's also about 20 or 30 kids who come from outside the state. About 20 of them come from southern Illinois, and they come over to the camp, which is held just north of Boone. The camp, I started mainly because kids with diabetes usually cannot go to regular camps because regular camps don't know what to do with them. Because a kid who has diabetes is taking insulin. They are taking anywhere from 2 to 4 shots of insulin a day. How many people in the room are diabetic? You take insulin? How about the rest of you? Would you like to volunteer to take a shot of insulin 4 times a day?
No.
You don't want to? Gee, I don't understand that. Well, anyway, these kids all come to camp. They're all on insulin. They have to be on insulin because if they weren't on insulin, they would all be dead. Prior to 1922, if a kid became diabetic, they were dead within 6 to 12 months. So the kids come to camp. And in order to have the camp, I have to have volunteers. When I bring out 340 kids, I also have 120 volunteers. Doctors, nurses, dietitians, pharmacists, diabetic counselors. And the main reason that we have the camp is, number one, to have the kids have fun. Zach, stand up. Did you have fun?
Yes.
Sit down. Zach's been coming to camp. It's not unusual for these kids to show up at camp, and they are the only kid in their school or in their town that has diabetes. The only one. And when they come there and they see 339 other kids with the same disease, so they have a lot of camaraderie, they learn to get along with one another, they talk with one another, they share experiences, and they have a good time. Also, we educate them. Sometimes it's very difficult to educate them. We actually have to sit them down in the corner and beat them on the head with a stick. Because if you have any kind of a diabetic educational unit, teaching someplace in the hospital and so forth, who shows up? The older people, the 40 to 50 to 60-year-olds. You don't see a room full of kids. And so this is why it's nice to be out at camp and they're sitting there and with a group of other kids just like them, and we educate them. Why do we want to educate them? Diabetes is a killer disease. You read all the time in the paper about diabetes. But people with diabetes don't die of diabetes, they die of the complications. What are the complications? If somebody has diabetes, the number one cause of death is heart disease. They have heart disease like everybody else, but they have it too soon. They'll have it 15 or 20 years faster than a normal person will have it. They also have kidney disease. And then the Lions Club, you get involvement with the eyes. The number one cause of blindness in middle-aged Americans is diabetes. And so, but it's been proven that if you educate people to take care of their diabetes better, they can hold off on the complications. So we try to educate the kids, tell them what to do and how to do it and so forth. And as a kid grows up with diabetes, they're different because nobody else has it. You imagine being a teenager and all the peer pressure being put on you just being a teenager, then throw in the thing with diabetes. They have a little bit more difficulty adjusting to everything in life compared to, quote, normal kids. So basically, I gave birth to this camp in 1968. It continues to get bigger every year, and at the present time, I'm working. I finally retired when I hit 74 years of age. Now I'm working on my camp. Camp Hertko Hollow, Inc. is a 501c3, and it runs the camp. In addition to that, I set up about a year and a half ago the Hertko Hollow Children's Diabetes Camp Foundation, and my ultimate aim for that foundation is to have enough money in there that it'll generate sufficient funds that any kid with diabetes and their siblings, because we got to teach the siblings something about diabetes, because a lot of times where you have a family that's 3 or 4 or 5 kids and one has diabetes, they tend to focus a lot on the diabetic kid. But we want to teach the other kids also what it is we're teaching the diabetic kid to do in order to have them understand. So I have the foundation, and I believe in that foundation. In fact, I put money where my mouth is. 1968, I also bought a lot up at Lake Panorama, which is a lake west of Des Moines. I built a house out there, and let's see, that was in 68. In 2002, which is 2 years ago, instead, I didn't sell it. I gave it to the foundation, and the foundation sold it for $265,000. So my wife and I gave money into that foundation in order to give it seed money to keep going. So at the present time, I'm working to keep the camp going. I want every kid with diabetes in the state of Iowa to be able to come to camp. In the past few, since we started, I think probably somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 kids have come through. This year, 2004, will be the 37th year of the camp. And as I was mentioning to the people here at the table, that you have any Bible background and so forth, I said that I got 3 more years. You know, everything in the Bible is 40 days, 40 years, and so forth, and I've been messing with this camp now for 37, so I figured I got 3 years. And I'm looking for the Lions clubs. I figured if every Lions, you got about 400 Lions clubs in Iowa. God, if each one of them would really throw into that thing and help fund the kid, my God, I'd have no problems at all. Actually, at the present time, if a family is able to pay for the kid, we charge them $475. However, The actual cost is $650 because we have to cover the 120 volunteers because we don't pay them anything. But we have to pay the YMCA camp to feed them, have them a place to sleep, etc. So the actual cost of the kid is $650. So basically every kid who comes out there is subsidized. Even if the family thinks they're paying $475, they are not paying the whole freight. But that's where I'm at the present time. I'm still involved a lot with diabetes. I'm sort of a diabetic guru for the state of Iowa. I helped set up the first diabetic outpatient clinic in Des Moines. I also, as I already said, was instrumental in setting up the American Diabetes Association. I've also worked with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. However, you have to know that when the JDRF, or the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, they get their money, none of that comes to camp. All their money goes to research. They cannot use that money for anything else. So when people give to that organization, it's a good organization, and I believe in research, but they are not doing anything to help a kid go to camp, and they are doing nothing to help educate a kid. So if you give to them, that's fine, I give to them, but at the same time, we got to do something with these kids because everybody seems to be focused on a research on a cure. But then I say, great, find a cure, but what do you do with the kids while you're waiting? Do you ignore them? No, you don't. You bring them someplace where you can teach them how to live with their disease, and hopefully they can avoid the complications. So that's Camp Hertko Hollow, and I got, as I said, I got 3 more years, so I expect every one of you to help. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me? Yes?
Do you have any idea how many kids from Fairfield or Jefferson County attend like an annual basis?
I don't know. I would say probably, I'm trying to visualize, just a minute. There's a picture. Where would this county be in here?
Not right here.
In there?
Yeah, right
What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In these counties right about here in the state, I would say there's probably a dozen. There's little dots on here for wherever all the kids come from. What county is this? Jefferson? Well, Jefferson, Iowa is on the other side of the state. It's almost like Des Moines County. It's in the wrong place. You know, Des Moines in the middle, and Des Moines County is over there on the river, on the Mississippi. Whoever laid this out got it all screwed up.
That's just like Wapello County, who's got a tunnel with this town of Wapelo's over on the river, because my son lived there.
God, I mean, who did that? The lawyers? I don't know. Well, anyway, I would say probably, from around this area, probably a dozen.
Let me follow that up with,
Yeah.
okay, how do the kids get referred to the camp and stuff? Is there kind of like a network through all the doctors to try to make sure the kids get there, or?
Yeah, well, usually what we try to do is we try to work through the school nurses. School nurses, we try to get something out to every school nurse, because a school nurse should know every kid in the school who has diabetes or any other medical problems. So we try to get that through that. Plus, this brochure, we mail out all kinds of things to a lot of people, and that's how we get it. So if you know anybody, then it always said, somebody was asking me, do you have to know a kid with diabetes? Well, if the kid, say, is in this city, in Fairfield, and says, I want to go, he could go to a club, he could go to Kiwanis, he could go to Rotary, he could go to Lions, and ask, say, will you sponsor me to come to camp? That's one way. And then they'll say, oh yeah, then they send in their registration saying, I am being sponsored by the Fairfield Lions. But if you don't know anybody in Fairfield or around here, all you do is you send in the thing saying, we want to sponsor some kid in Jefferson County, even if it isn't Jefferson town, you know. So we don't in Jefferson, because we may think you're on the other side of the state. Something like that. We would like to sponsor a kid, because that's what we do, a lot of matching up, because kids will write in and want to come to camp, but they don't have a sponsor. So we and I always tell everybody that I don't want any kid or any parent telling me that they cannot afford to send their kid to camp. I said, I refuse to accept that. We will get the money. In fact, one mother, this was just last year, heard about my foundation, and she wrote me a letter. She says, "Dear Dr. Hertko, enclosed you will find a check for $25 for your foundation. I'm sorry we can't give you any more. However, our son so-and-so cannot come to camp because we don't have enough money." I sent the $25 back to her, and I said, use that as the registration fee, send the kid, we'll get the money, and we always do. So we've never turned anybody down. So, no, I always tell them, by God, we'll get you out there and have to drag you out.
Nationwide, is the level of juvenile diabetes stable? Is it increasing?
I think it's juvenile diabetes. There's two types of diabetes. There's type 1, which is the juvenile type, which is the kind that the kids get, which has nothing to do with eating sugar or getting fat. The type 1 comes on because the cells in the pancreas are destroyed by some immune mechanism, therefore they can't produce insulin. I think that is going up, but not like type 2s is. Type 2 diabetes, which is the kind that old people over the age of 40 get as you get older. However, kids are starting to get type 2 diabetes now. Why? They're overweight. They're getting too fat. And so we always tell people that, well, what you ought to do is eat less. So what do? They go to McDonald's and they say, do you want to supersize the fries? Yeah. Do you want to supersize the drink? Yeah. Do you want to supersize the whatever? So everybody's supersizing, and therefore we're all become supersized. And then we tell the kids, don't eat so much. And then we tell people exercise. And I always used to joke about, what do you do when you get the urge to exercise? You lay down until the urge goes away. Or the other thing is, you look around at the things that are going on nowadays. How many in the room remember back when televisions first came out, and you actually had to get up out of the chair and walk across the room to turn the dial? Anybody ever remember that, or you're too young? Or how many of you remember that when the phone rang, you actually had to go from the second floor down into the kitchen to answer the phone? And in the olden days when the phones were actually attached to a wall. So what are we doing nowadays? We sit in a chair, we don't get up to answer the phone, we got to sit in there at our thing. You sit there and the only thing that happens is your thumb. You're 232 times a minute. But that's what we're doing. We're exercising less and so forth. So the most common type is type 2. Right now in the state of Iowa, there's probably about 198,000 diabetics. Approximately 1/3 to probably a third don't even know they have it. They walk the streets undiagnosed. It's almost like you were mentioning the fact that you went in for something and they found you were diabetic. That's not unusual. People can run around the streets for 10 years, 12 years, have diabetes and not even know it. That's type 2 though. That's the kind you get as you get older. Type 1s though, they don't run around the streets very long. They're sick. Kids, when they become diabetic, I can tell you with any one of you, if somebody comes in and tells you a story such as, something's wrong with John or Susie. What? John or Susie's eating like crazy, but has lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. Oh. I also noticed that John and Susie are drinking a gallon of water every 2 hours. Is that right? Going to the bathroom? Oh man, they're living in the bathroom. They're urinating constantly. So if a kid ever has that kind of symptoms, eating like crazy, losing weight, drinking like mad, going to the bathroom constantly, that's diabetes until proven otherwise. In older people, you could have those symptoms. How's your appetite? Fine. You losing any weight? No. Wish I could. You going to the bathroom a lot? I don't think so. You get up at night to go to the bathroom? Oh yeah, I've been doing that for years. You know, that's what you get when they get the older ones and so forth. So, but actually the type 1 diabetics only make up about 5 to 10% of all the diabetics. The type 2s, the older diabetics, that come on when you get it heavy, they make up about 90-95% of all the diabetics. Anybody else have any questions? You're all going to be tested on this, you know. I'll send you a test in the mail, and if you don't pass, you'll have to send me a check. Yes.
You wouldn't accept any money today, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I got sure. Just sign your name on the check. I'll fill in the blank.
You could raise a little money right here today.
Good. I was at a meeting of the Lions Club in Sac City 2 weeks ago, and at that time, a couple of people, I guess I turned them on because they both, 2 people wrote me checks right there before I even walked out of the room. But I also talked to the individual, I don't know what his name is, who's helping put on the annual meeting that's going to be in Mount Pleasant in June. I already told him, I said, I certainly would like to go and talk to all the Lions Clubs at once if I could. So I'll wait to hear from them. So if you're lucky enough to go to that, you're liable to see me all over again. But that's about it. So my ultimate aim, though, is to keep the camp going. And the other thing is, since I started the camp, I've never made a penny. Not 1 single cent. But this is the best thing I've ever done with my life. And after I'm dead and gone, I hope the camp is still around. Any other questions?
Do you have a website?
Yeah, camphertkohollow.com.
We're on TV.
All one thing, camphertkohollow.com. You'll get a whole book of things, anything you wanted to know.
Yes.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And thanks for coming also. Are you guys from?
We live at Libertyville.
Libertyville. Okay, good. Good. Anything else? We have a couple things before everybody takes off. And real quick, on March 20th, we had a fundraiser that was put on by Sunnybrook Assisted Living and Betty Howell. And some of the Lions got together and we had a pancake breakfast. And with that money, we had decided to donate it to the senior citizen site over on Court Street. And it went, I guess I wasn't really sure how good it was going to go, but it went really well. So we have a check here today for Richard Dick, if you want to come up and accept it for the senior citizen site. We actually raised about $600 for the site, and we wanted to present that from the Fairfield Lions Club today. Thanks, Richard.
Might add, it's very much appreciated. I've been on the board of directors a couple of years now, and I don't think the average person knows what that place does for the town, but it does a lot, and they'll use the money wisely.
Thank you. It went really well. I think we have some things planned again coming up maybe in June. And Betty said she wanted to do either breakfast or dance. She actually wants to do a dance out there, so that'll be interesting. I think it'll be good. The residents out there, they get a vote as to what kind of events they can have, and it sounds like it'll be a lot of fun. But let's see, what else before we take off here? Renee, do you want to come up and talk about, did you give her a heads up?
No, I didn't.
Well, we can do that the next, okay, if you want to do it now.
Tell me what we're talking about.
We had the Jefferson County Health Fair this last weekend, and we had a couple programs going on. The Glaucoma mobile was there, and Coming to Your Senses. We actually started to do that this year, and Renee might be able to fill us in a little bit on that and how it went.
Well, I
I thanked Ralph earlier for the participation from the hospital to help it get going and everything. It was actually a wonderful fair, and he said they had over 800 people there that morning. We had, I believe, we did over 35 children. We took pictures of their eyes. Al Olson from Washington was there, and he's going to get us the results to let us know if any children were referred to their doctors. And so I thank everybody that helped. There was, I think, 6 of us that did it. We had good turnout. Steve was one of them, and I just appreciate it. It's where we take the camera and we take pictures of kids from 6 months to 4 years, and we take pictures of their eyes and send it into the University of Iowa City, and then they in turn send a letter back. My eyes. I got to be the
Guinea pig.
yeah, the guinea pig. Just so anyway, but it's really a great thing. They check for nearsightedness, farsightedness, lazy eye, a lot of the things that can be corrected if caught at an early age. So we tried it to see if we wanted to do it, and I'm interested to hear from the rest of them that helped with it. If they're interested in doing this as a club, we can do it as much as we want or as few times. They usually go through the daycares or the preschools or AEA, and there's no one here in Jefferson County that's doing it right now. So if you are interested in doing this type of thing, let me know. I'm very interested to do it, but I don't want to be the only person in the club interested. So let me know if you want to do this, so maybe we can talk about it. And okay.
So do they get back to you with the results?
Yes.
They send that up to the U of I and then get back to you with?
He's going to give us an overall to let us know how many children were referred, if any, out of 35 that we did.
We also did glaucoma testing. A couple things I want to say about that. Thanks to Ed Carter for organizing this back before he went there, doing both programs, the glaucoma mobile and the coming to your senses. And I don't see Dr. Joel, but he sat behind that little thing and looked at people's eyes for 4 solid hours. We had 61 people participate in the glaucoma testing, and I know of 2 who volunteered to say that they were really glad they came because they found the problems. There were probably more than that. That's what I heard from them. So anyway, thanks for helping with that, everyone. Thanks, Renee, and all her work.
We want to thank all the members that helped out with that. It's a good cause. I did that, I think, a couple years ago, and it's fun. So we still have a little bit of time here. We would like to induct a new member today. And no packet. Well, we can go ahead and induct them, and then we can give them the packet. No heads up on that one either, was there? That's all right. Sorry about that. But Roy, why don't you come on up, and then Raymond and Lane, you're going to stand in for Bob Kistler. That's right. And we'll go ahead and induct him today. And
So I got face not on the back of everyone. Lionism had its start on June 7th, 1917 in Chicago, Illinois. A young insurance man named Melvin Jones founded this association. Since that time, we have grown to 1,352,297 members and 45,978 clubs in 739 districts in 192 countries and geographical areas. This was as of the October 31st, 2003 report that I could find. I couldn't find a later one. The first president of the Fairfield Club was Dr. Stuart Glaucoma in 1921 and 22. On June 30th, 1925, at the International Convention in Cedar Point, Ohio, Helen Keller challenged us to become Knights of the Blind. We've branched into other areas as well, including hearing, feeder dogs, diabetes, education, just to name a few. Since you have expressed a desire to affiliate with this club and with the Lions Club International, I will now ask you that you respond to my words with a simple I do or I will. Do you hereby accept membership in the Lions Club of Fairfield knowing that such membership obligates you to participate in all the functions of the club? To the best of your ability, will you abide by the Lions Code of Ethics, attend meetings regularly, accept such assignments are given you, and to contribute your share to the programs of your club, district, and Lions International?
I will.
You're now a member of the Lions Club of Fairfield. Your sponsor will now place your lapel emblem on your, but I'm not sure we have one. But, okay. But the sponsor needs to put it.
And yours is coming in, I'd like to have one of them back.
I would like to now charge the sponsor, as well as all members of this club, to fulfill the following obligations to this new member. Make him feel welcome, provide him with information about the club. Officers usually need to provide assignments and committees and encourage activity of the club. Everyone needs to be ready to answer questions and encourage new members to share an existing problem and offer solutions. Let's all make this a great Lions Club. Congratulations.
Speech.
I was going to let you go, but I guess those guys aren't going to.
Well, I was born in Jefferson County, and I've lived here all my life. And I got started in public service. I farmed and did carpenter work as I grew up. My dad was a carpenter, and when I was just pretty small yet, I used to go on the job and pick up nails and help sort lumber. And we did the sawing with a table saw then, and I helped cut rafters and all this kind of thing. So I learned that skill, how to build and stuff then when I was pretty small yet. So then I got into farming, and Lane was I've known him the longest. I really thought I was going to have Bob Kuster talk about me a little bit. I've known him since 58.
You lay that, talk about him.
But I've known Lane longer, so I got worried about that. I woke up last night for a couple hours thinking. But anyhow, I asked, Bob Kuster's been after me for quite a while to join the Lions. And I did join for a year back when my family was small and I was on the school board and involved in a lot of things, and I just didn't have the time, so I dropped out. But now, since I've kind of retired somewhat, when I retired, I bought a motorhome, so I'd have something to do. I'd either be traveling or I would be fixing it. So Bob Kuster talked me into that, but he talked me into the Lions finally. So I asked him, I said, give me some reasons why I should join the Lions. And he said, well, they have some lady lions, so they're the best looking bunch.
I didn't pay him for that.
And he said that they're a very intelligent group, which I believe that too. So, and then he said, if you ever feel frustrated, if your wife gives you a bad time or anything, you can come to the Lions Club and you can roar. And he said, you don't have to know how to sing. He said, it's just like when you go to the Howard Johnson's Coffee Club. They sing whether they can or not. And it's kind of the same way with Lions. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with them.
Thanks, Roy. Well, we're glad to have you, and we do have a fun group here. It's a good time. So, one more thing. The Joint Service Club meeting is supposed to be on the 27th of this month. It's the same night as our picnic. And so we thought we'd throw it out there and see if we should reschedule the picnic. And some of the dates that are available are April 20th, May 4th, or May 11th. And any suggestions or ideas on that, or should we go ahead and just keep our scheduled picnic dinner?
I would think May 4th, we've always been into the first week of May for many, many years, so it would not be turning away from our tradition.
Okay, anybody?
I'd like to see us continue meeting with close.
I think
Okay.
that's a very important meeting of the joint meeting, so I think we need to.
So reschedule the picnic, can't even think here. Reschedule the picnic for May 4th at DeCourcy Hall. Arvin said it was open that night, so that'll be okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. And again, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And if anybody out there wants information, go to www.hertkohollow.com, or you can call them at 888-437-8652 and get information on the camp. So,
There's pamphlets up there.
okay.
Anybody wants to take them.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it. And everybody have a good day, and thanks for coming.